and welcome to the Generation Y Conservative Show. I'm glad that you could join me tonight. It's been a while. It's been a while since we went live on the Facebook stream, and well, I don't have a co-host tonight, so I figured what the heck, I'd open it up to the public, see if anybody wants to jump in with comments and everything, and we have a lot going on. Obviously, if you're watching, tonight is Friday. This show won't go live or be on air until Sunday on Mojo 50. And then by then you would have already missed tomorrow's event, the Rally in the Valley in Copley, Pennsylvania at Raleigh Firing Line, where I will be one of the featured speakers at the Second Amendment rally. So if you happen to be in the area in Pennsylvania tomorrow, go to Raleigh Firing Line at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. They're giving away guns and a bunch of other giveaways. You can go to the shooting range. You can get great deals on firearms themselves and everything. So it's going to be a good time. That's Saturday, tomorrow. Listen, this half hour of the Generation Y Conservative Show is brought to you by Patriot Mobile. Now listen, there is a lot of crap out there that we don't support, okay? We're seeing it all the time right now. There's a lot of stories in the news of just policies that are being passed all over the country that we disagree with. What's more frustrating than those policies being passed is when you are paying big companies for their products or services and they put your money towards those things. One of those examples is actually your cell phone company. Well, while the left gives away your money to things like Planned Parenthood and other things, there is a difference out there. There is an alternative, and that is Patriot Mobile. The extreme left politicians have become unhinged, and media bias is at an all-time high, and anti-Semitism is running rampant. You can support your values with a veteran-led Patriot Mobile phone. America's only conservative cell phone company providing reliable nationwide coverage. It's easy to switch, keep your same phone number, bring your own device, or buy a new one. Enjoy no hidden fees, no roaming fees, and no liberal agenda, which is the most important thing. At Patriot Mobile, more than $2 million has been used to support your constitutional rights. Imagine what we could do with you on our side when you switch to Patriot Mobile. With unlimited talk and text plans starting as low as $25 a month, now is the time to switch. Visit patriotmobile.com/mojo50. Join me to stop the left and switch to Patriot Mobile today. We need you now more than ever. Just visit patriotmobile.com/mojo50. This half hour is also brought to you by the Nostalgia Grilling Sampler. Now, this is just in time for Father's Day, okay? It says, it's time to get your grilling on. Nostalgia's Grilling Sampler Pack is on sale and perfect for kicking up your grilling skills. Just go to mojowildrice.com and use the code word GRILL10, and you can save 10% on the Grilling Sampler Pack. Now, what comes in the pack? Listen to this. I just had dinner, so my stomach's full, but it still makes my mouth water on this. The pack includes their salt-free garlic and herb seasoning for meats, vegetables, or potatoes, and can be used as a dry or oil rub. The Northwoods Jerk Seasoning is some awesome flavor that you can put on pork, salmon, or chicken, either dry or oil rubbed. You can use the raspberry wine jelly as a delicious base for marinades or the dipping sauce to brush directly on the meats. The sweet heat of the jalapeno pepper jam is perfect as a marinade, brushed on at the grill or served on the side as a dip. You can even add it to your own barbecue sauce for some super flavor. Add their maple sugar to your wet or dry rub before grilling for great caramelization on any grilled meat. And everyone will love the wonderful dark richness of the stout beer jelly in your burger mixture mixed in with some Gouda cheese. It can also be used as a grilling sauce or marinade for a delicious flavor on any meat. So make the most of your grilling season and save 10% when you use the promo code GRILL10 at mojowildrice.com. And don't forget, it's a great gift for Father's Day. All right, well, this is the Generation Y Conservative Show. want to thank everyone for joining me tonight. It's a heck of a week. I myself have been working like crazy this week, but we have what's amounting to be just some crazy political things going on out there. For the last couple of weeks, we've been dealing a lot with the abortion topics. I'm going to dive back into that tonight again, just for a little bit because of some things that are happening in Illinois. It seems like the states are putting down their feet on issues, and we're starting to see states' rights really rise up and show their faces, which in most cases I would be happy about. I think that's what sets America apart, as far as being able to go to a different state and see what's going on and be able to live in a state that more aligns with your values. You know, we have such an uproar right now when sweeping legislation passes in states like Alabama with the abortion bill. What's the one out west? I forget at this point. Missouri, I believe it was. And you know, you see things like what we're going to talk about in Illinois happening, and you think to yourself, my word, like, people are really starting to step up into what they feel is the appropriate thing and actually going with it. Now, personally for me, abortion, that I'm always going to consider it murder, so I think it's really disgusting when a state makes it legal up through 9-month period in the womb. And you know, we'll certainly talk about that. You can start putting your opinions down on what you think about that and why anyone would abort a baby at 9 months beyond a woman's health issue. Because even at that point, we'll talk about alternatives, even in the womb, that you could have. But why at 9 months? I mean, it's not like you just figured out that you're pregnant at that point. Also, we have a funny story that we're going to start the night off with. But listen, what I want you to do is, if you... How's it going, Andy? If you are a first-time listener to the program, I always forget to do this lately, especially on Mojo Radio. What I want you to do is head over to the Generation Y Conservative page, hit like and follow so you can get notifications when we publish content, whether that's stories that we follow throughout the week. And you know, typically those stories are going to show up on the podcast or on the show anyway. Sorry, podcast is for later, the recorded version. Also, what I want you to do is, more importantly than that, if you haven't seen what's in the news this week and why I'm kind of fired up about everything, it's that YouTube is really going out of their way to censor conservatives, demonetize them, and take away their means of making money and everything. I think when I started this channel, the algorithms and what was going on with YouTube was a little different. I had a little following, and I think I made $4 on the channel before they demonetized me and set new standards. And I am going through a push right now for my YouTube channel to get to the subscriber base that they require for me to monetize. So look, go to the YouTube website, search for the Generation Y Conservative channel, hit subscribe and hit the bell for notifications for when we publish content. Now, we split up this show into all of its segments. We put them in each individually. We put on full shows and everything. And we also publish movie reviews and gun reviews as well. I had mentioned earlier right at the start of the program that tomorrow I'll be doing a speech on the Second Amendment at the Raleigh in the Valley here in the Lehigh Valley at Relic Hunter Firing Line. And at Relic Hunter Firing Line, I work with Gerard and some of his other workers to spotlight and review certain firearms. I gotta tell you, it's one of the best parts of this show is getting out and being able to do that. As a matter of fact, 2 weekends ago I was there and it was a free gun rental weekend. Oh my word. I picked up the Sig Sauer MPS, and even the range officer said I had great grouping. I blew a hole by the end of this shooting time through that target. And it certainly wasn't me. I mean, I'm a pretty good shot and everything, but there's like little recoil to no recoil, and the grouping was amazing. So now I'm torn between getting a Mossberg Shockwave shotgun and going for an MPS. So either way, I got to start saving up some money. Andy says YouTube has caved to the loud minority. Yeah, absolutely. And we're talking less than 2% of the population in regards to who is actually speaking up and speaking out and making problems for conservatives. And I think that the social media networks are really starting to open the door after multiple interviews, whether it was testifying in front of Congress and talking about to Mark Zuckerberg the Facebook issues that they're having and censoring conservatives and trying to figure out what the heck is happening there. And he kind of did his like robotic spiel and was drinking water like an alien the whole time and everything. Over to Jack Dorsey of Twitter and him showing up on the Joe Rogan podcast and explaining with his counterpart who runs the operation, I forget her name, but it was almost like watching someone talking to you that you absolutely know that they are lying to your face and you can't do anything about it. You can't prove them wrong. You can't say that they're right in what they're saying. And it's just getting to it's a really tough spot for people like me right now. And you know, I was demonetized at a very low subscriber base, as opposed to some of these bigger guys that have millions of followers and everything. I'm getting way off track. Anyway, we talked about Facebook. Go to Facebook, hit like and follow. Go to the YouTube channel for the Generation Y Conservative. Hit subscribe and the bell for notifications on that. And then you can also go to Twitter, at Gen Y Conservative without the E on the end. By the way, I also just found out, if you're listening to Mojo Radio right now, that on June 18th, it's a Tuesday, at 9 o'clock, I will actually be co-hosting Defenders Live with Steven on there because Dylan will be out of town for a little over a week, it looks like, on vacation or something like that. So just got off the texting with Dylan, the co-host of that show, and I look forward to it. I look forward to being able to sit as the co-host and just react to the co-host instead of coming up with all the content and everything. Sean says, we can't get loud. We get labeled as racist, selfish Nazis. Sean, you're in the Lehigh Valley. I would encourage you to come out to the Relic Hunter Firing Line Second Amendment rally tomorrow and listen to my speech because I'll be honest with you, I was on this trail over the last couple of weeks trying to come up with my speech in regards to what I was going to talk about and what direction I was going to go into. Andy, to answer your question, how do you get Mojo Radio? Download the iHeartRadio app and find Mojo 50 Radio on iHeartRadio. It's an internet radio station based out of Texas. Originally, Doc Thompson of The Blaze started it up, and they have a lot of really, really great programs on there for conservatives all day long, all week. On weekends, I'm on from 5 to 7 on Sundays. That's when this show will actually air on the radio, and I'm just pre-recording it right now. Unfortunately, I don't have the availability on Sundays to be able to do that live. Yeah, so my direction in regards to the speech was actually going to be in regards to Venezuela and Nicaragua and going off of the socialist policies that have made their so-called paradise and show what happens when dictatorships put the boot on the necks of not American citizens, but citizens in their countries, take away their guns and then strip them of every other right that they have, and send them into poverty and eating out of trash cans. Certainly I will be, you're absolutely welcome, Andy. We certainly will be talking about that as well during this speech, but some really interesting things in regards to the stuff with social media this week, I feel like trends in the direction of the Second Amendment. I'm going to tie the First Amendment and the Second Amendment together really well. Last year, if you haven't seen it, you can actually head over to the YouTube channel and search for my Second Amendment rally speech last year at Relic Hunter Firing Line. It looks like they're doing this as a yearly thing now. And I talked about the importance of the Constitution, how the Second Amendment protects all the other amendments, and without it, it would dissolve. We wouldn't have the ability to protect those. So my question to you, and I'm going to give you the answer either tomorrow if you're at the rally, or next week I'll put it into the show as well, is if the Second Amendment protects every other amendment in the Constitution, what protects the Second Amendment? I'm sure some of you will be able to answer that actually on the show right now as I'm watching the live feed here. But I have a really in-depth look of going at that and actually bringing in news stories of recently what's been going on to actually be able to answer that as well. Listen, let's talk about some funny things though. This is according to WTSP, looks like 10 News. This is the headline. Passengers say captain drank beer, had cocaine, and fired a gun during nightmare fishing trip. Okay? And as soon as I start reading this, here's what I want you to think. I don't know where you are in the country right now, but well, actually, it must be popular all over the place because they made a freaking movie about it. Here in the Lehigh Valley, there's a couple places where you can go for these escape room kind of adventure things that you can do to escape out of the room and find all the clues and everything. As soon as I started reading this, I started cracking up because all I was thinking was, did these people actually sign normal Friday night? Absolutely right. Are these people signing up for a pirate ship adventure and how to escape off this damn thing? I started cracking up. But listen to, here's some of the thing. Of course, it happens in Florida, as someone pointed out. It says, passengers say their charter boat captain went on a drunken, drug-infused tirade and threatened to shoot everyone on his boat during a nightmare fishing trip. 10 News also obtained a police summary and witness statements that paint a disturbing picture of what should have been a 12-hour fishing excursion Sunday in the Gulf of Mexico. Sarasota police say passengers aboard the boat told them that Captain Mark Bailey, 36, my age, drank rum from the bottle, had multiple beers, got high from cocaine, and ended up in an argument with a 15-year-old passenger who reportedly tried to grab his uncle a drink from the captain's pail. Passenger Christopher Gluffrey said it was like a movie, unbelievable. He says that Bailey ripped a chain off fellow passenger Jason Jr. Railmo's neck for trying to grab the beer for his uncle. I thought at first he was just playing, but then I realized that he was serious, and I was like, I can't do that. In statements filed with the police department, the passengers claimed that Bailey fired a gun more than once while the vessel was 30 to 40 miles offshore. Holy crap. So, listen, hey, I'm looking at the itinerary here. It looks like you signed up for a pirate cruise. You get what you sign up for. I mean, what's going on? And this guy looks like he could have been a pirate. I mean, he's in an orange jumpsuit or something right off the bat with this picture here and everything. But he's got the long hair pulled back and the beard. And maybe I look like a preppy pirate or something like that. But my word, I looked at I think Andy's right. It's like a normal Friday night if I was living in Florida, that's for sure. I love being out on the boat. But could you imagine being out at sea? Need to move to Florida, he says. I don't know about that. There was a recent thing going around on Facebook where if you Google your birthday and type Florida man or something like that all together, it comes up with, you should post like the story that's associated with your birthday and some crazy Florida man doing something at that point in time, and it always comes up with something hilarious. It's actually really funny. Okay, listen, here's something that's really interesting too. I am actually going to tie this into my speech on Saturday, tomorrow, or yesterday if you're listening to this on Sunday. This is according to comicbook.com. Their article headline reads, Rotten Tomatoes needs to kill its audience scores. Okay, if you're a movie lover like me and you like watching movies and everything, you understand what Rotten Tomatoes is, most likely, okay? Rotten Tomatoes is a website where you can go to get peer reviews on movies that you want to go see. It also has the critic score up there as well as a comparison, but it seems like critics don't really jive with the American people anymore. They're always going for the artsy films, ones with social agendas and everything, and they praise those and everything, but you never see like a great Marvel flick ever winning awards at the Academy Awards or anything like that. Not that I watch that crap either because of how infused with political drama that is all the time. But what I find interesting is that this website, Rotten Tomatoes, if it's a peer-reviewed website, that essentially makes this a for the people, by the people website. Does that sound familiar to you at all? And what are they saying here? Rotten Tomatoes needs to kill its audience score. So it's just going to become another critics website. But here's why. Let's see here. For the past 2 decades, blah, blah, blah. Okay. In response to the internet trolls, the site has updated their protocols multiple times over the last few months. First, audience reviews were temporarily disabled, followed by the option to comment about a movie only being made possible after a movie is opened. Okay, what they're specifically talking about here, and I can't find it exactly, is in regards to 2 specific films. Number 1, Captain America, and 2, Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Okay? And again, stick with me tomorrow. I will tie this all into the Second Amendment. Number 1, let's go over Captain Marvel just real quick, okay? Bad acting, okay? I don't know if it's Brie Larson's fault or, because I actually kind of liked her in the King Kong movie that just came out recently, Skull Island. She was okay in that. But her cardboard acting in Captain Marvel was terrible. And the whole movie was set up to bash men, okay? It was a feminist agenda to show that women are better than men at doing things, or at least as equal, okay? And the only way that modern feminists have the ability to prove themselves is by bashing men and putting them down. We're running low on time here, so I'm going to try to hurry this up. And that's not the case. If you want to prove yourself as an equal or better, just prove it. You don't need to bash men in order to do that. As far as the Star Wars: The Last Jedi is concerned, you had a purple-haired feminist leader who put down her best pilot and refused to talk to him about plans because he wasn't good enough for her, going on a 2.5-hour chase in space, to going over to a planet where they vilify the rich in a casino environment. They go on an animal saving spree for an animal rights activist agenda. They bring up slavery into that, and they force relationships that had nothing going on for him before except for trying to bring together interracial couples, which, I mean, aren't we past that already? How far past that are we at this point? All to say, it was convoluted and a freaking mess, okay? So no wonder these movies got bad scores, because no one wants these social agendas jammed down their throats anymore. And with Star Wars, I mean, maybe there's been some social agendas that tied into them in the past, but nothing as blatant as The Last Jedi. I can tell you, as a true Star Wars fan myself, I've watched all those movies over and over and over again. I've watched The Last Jedi one time, and any other time I've turned on that movie, I have fast forwarded to the throne fight scene, to the salt planet fight scene, and that's about it. That's honestly just about it. Okay? As far as Captain Marvel's concerned, I gotta be honest with you. Besides the feminist agenda in it, which I can actually kind of look past because it wasn't that bad, her acting was the bad part, I thought it was actually kind of a good movie in regards to the origin stories, okay? Every origin story has to set up the character and go through all the supporting character cast and everything else in order to really get going in subsequent movies and everything. I mean, look at Thor. It took until Ragnarok to get that franchise really going, where everybody really liked it. So, yes, this website saying that it needs to go to critic scores is full of crap, because then it's no longer Rotten Tomatoes. It's no longer a peer-by-peer movie review site. And that turns it into something that we actually don't want to see anymore. We don't want to go to reviews done by critics or anything. So listen, we have a lot more to talk about. We're going to talk about Netflix and their support of abortion and what's going on with that, my family's personal choice on that, a couple more entertainment things that we're going to talk about, and then we're going to get into politics as well. So listen, stick around. We'll be right back, and we'll continue the conversation. Hang in there. half hour is of the Generation Y Conservative Show is brought to you by Cat Coolers. We've been going over this every single week. If there's one thing out there that people like to bring along with them, whether it's camping or hunting, to the beach, on any type of vacation, family reunions, out to your kids' sporting events and everything, one of those necessities is a cooler. And there's a lot of really cool coolers out there, because as soon as one of these big companies came out with something that was really cool, all these other companies started replicating it. But one of those companies starts with a Y, ends with an Eddie, okay? Actually supports anti-Second Amendment things, along with Dick's Sporting Goods and everything. So while they used to be one of the best, it's no longer like that. And, there are alternatives out there. Well, with cat coolers, they're rugged, they keep ice cold for up to 7 days, which is just phenomenal. It's made in the USA, which is important to most of us listening to this program and to this radio station. It's customizable, and it comes in 4 different colors, kinda. And I'll explain that. White, black, yellow, and camouflage. I don't know how the heck you consider camouflage one single color or anything like that, but there it is. Camouflage is a color that you can choose for it as well. So go to catcoolers.com. It's CATCOOLERS.com. Use a code for a 10% discount. Now, my code has not been set up yet, but since I'm going to be on Defenders Live, we can use the code Steven, STEVEN, and you can get 10% off of your cat cooler. It's summertime, and coolers are going to be a necessity, so get ready with that. Listen, this half hour is also brought to you by The Gun Box. Just go to thegunbox.com. Again, listen, Second Amendment rally coming up, or in the past as far as when you're watching this. I have to get used to that. We as gun owners own 400 million guns here in the United States alone, okay? 1% of gun crimes are done by legal, lawful citizens that own firearms, okay? The rest of the 99% happen to be criminals, okay, that are illegally using firearms or own a firearm illegally. The majority of gun deaths in the country, it's over 60% at this point, is due to suicides. We can fix that. We can at least take a dent into that, because there's a lot of things that go wrong with guns in a house if they're not properly stored. The gun box is one of those things that you should definitely look into and try to get, because securing a firearm is the responsibility of a gun owner. And to be honest with you, I think that gun owners, for the most part, and that statistic shows it, 1% of crimes are safety concerned people. Well, when it comes to the gun box, you have the Gun Box 2.0. It's the ultimate quick and accessible handgun safe, ideal for securing your firearm when you're not carrying it on your person. Their cutting edge technology and innovative safety features provide peace of mind while storing your handgun on the nightstand, desk, countertop, or anywhere you might need fast access. With the simple swipe of a finger, press of a custom keyed code, or the wave of an RFID card or fob, the gun box opens in seconds. Well, that's the Gun Box 2.0. The Gun Box Echo is an ideal travel size handgun safe, perfect for those on the go, and has the latest in technology to secure your firearm while giving you quick access. So the Gun Box 2.0 and the Gun Box Echo are essentially the same thing, except one is for more travel purposes, which is the Echo, right? Same great features. Comes with a ability to do the simple swipe of a finger, press of a custom key code, or the wave of a key card or fob, and the Echo opens in seconds. Those are not the only two safes available, though. I would encourage you to actually go to the website, thegunbox.com, and check out their rifle case. I don't know if you have one of those air conditioner units set up in your house or apartment or anything like that. I mean, if you have central air, you don't need it or anything, but I'm talking about those really cool like tower ones that's like are part fan and everything that you sit in the corner and they look really fancy and nice. That's what this thing looks like for rifles. It's actually really cool. It opens up like a big elongated clamshell. You could put your magazines and every clips in there, and I think you could store multiple guns, but it is really cool. It's a little bit more expensive, and I think that they're really pushing their handgun safes and everything, but I would encourage you to go check it out on the website. Okay, listen, let's get back into it here. Last thing we were talking about was this comicbook.com going over that Rotten Tomatoes needs to get rid of the user scores. Well, BS, okay? How about this? Raise your hand, wave to me, give a heart, give a like if you are a Jurassic Park fan, because I have been. How about this? I just gotta say this. This is probably why I love movies. Is movies like Star Wars and Jurassic Park and stuff like that. I don't even remember the movie I was in when the trailer for Jurassic Park played in the theater, and it was a black screen. There was stomping, and then all of a sudden the T-Rex comes on screen and it just roars at you. And then it just showed the Jurassic Park logo, and that stuck with me. Just the sheer sound of the T-Rex in the movie theater. It's awesome. And I've seen every movie since, and you can keep on making dinosaur movies like that, and I'll continue to go watch them. Love Jurassic Park. That being said, if you're a subscriber to Netflix, Jurassic World animated series is coming to Netflix in 2020. That's pretty cool. And it says Camp Cretaceous, okay? And it does look pretty cool. It's an animated series, so, that it is what it is in regards to that. But I'm still excited. Now, why am I bringing this up? Number one, I find that pretty cool. Number two, here's another thing in regards to Netflix, and then we're really going to get deep and heavy into it. Matt says here, they also have guns that recognize, say, a wedding band with a chip in it and synced to the gun. Without the ring, it won't fire. Ruin my Netflix devotion later on, and my wife may thank you. Yeah, so he's talking about, I don't know if the gun box has those features, that's what he's saying, if he went to the website already. But yes, we're gonna get into some sad things here on Netflix, Matt. I'm sorry about that. The Ranch is ending after 4 seasons on Netflix. There are 2 conservative comedies out there that I really enjoy on TV. Number one, Last Man Standing. And when ABC canceled that, it was people like us. Okay, I know certainly I signed multiple petitions. I know I shared petitions on my Facebook page. I know that when I was running my podcast, I was sharing information to go and sign petitions to bring it back. And, part of me thought that Netflix or Hulu was going to pick it up and run it in like batch series and everything. But then Fox picked it up, and that was really cool. And they've been doing a good job. It's unfortunate that some of the actresses have been switched out and everything since then that just couldn't come back. Mandy, I think it was. Was it Mandy? The middle one. I forget what her name is. Oh, yeah, it's Mandy. And that stinks because it is what it is. I'm not going to bash the new characters. It's just good to have it on TV. The Ranch is a raunchy conservative comedy that if you haven't watched, you should tune into. The first couple seasons are great. Unfortunately, Danny Masterson from That 70s Show was the brother on the show, and he got caught up in the Me Too movement. That movement, the hashtag Me Too, that was supposed to get a lot of conservatives in trouble, the movement that was pushed to kind of lead to some political upheaval with Donald Trump. And of course, it wasn't the conservatives that got in trouble. Liberal Hollywood fell apart because of all the Me Too movement, and all these liberal actors left and right started dropping like flies all over the place. And it just it's still continuing. And who's still standing? Donald Trump. It was only months before that Mike Pence was discussed on The View, and they were talking about how caveman-like it is for him to not accept to be in a room with another woman unless his wife is there or another party is there, and how rude of him to not give the opportunity to women to be in the room for professional advancement and everything. And he says it's inappropriate. And then what happens? Me Too movement comes out. Guess who's high and dry and not getting in trouble with the Me Too movement? Mike Pence and Donald Trump. And we all know Donald Trump has had his foolings around and has not been a very moral person in the past when it comes to women. But you're doing great as president, I'll just say that. But yeah, Netflix is canceling The Ranch after the upcoming season, which is going to come out in 2 parts through 2020. Now, here's the thing. Netflix just came out. Matt, hold on to your seatbelt here, buddy. Netflix just came out and said that they are supporting states for the abortions and everything, that they're putting money towards Planned Parenthood and stuff like that. And we're a family that puts our money where our mouths are, okay? There's a lot of things going on out there that we disagree with. I could tell you right now, when the whole transgender bathroom issue came up and Target was saying, you can use whatever bathroom you want, we immediately said, no more Target. And it's not because we mind sharing a bathroom with a transgender person. It's the fact that you do not make your policies clear enough, because everything in that community is muddled, right? If you're a fluid transgender, you are male today, female tomorrow, back to male. You could change it throughout the day. You could go hourly, you could go minutely. You know, if a bearded man shows up in the restroom with my 10-year-old daughter, I'm going to strangle the son of a gun, okay? I'm going to put him out of his misery by drowning him in the toilet, all right? You don't go into a women's bathroom when you're not even trying to be a woman. Okay, and that's the problem. It's not the transgender people themselves. It's the people that take advantage of the so-called policy that has no regulation to it, which is exactly what we talked about in the school situation too. When we were battling in the public school against this type of policy, and we kept on saying it's not about the transgender students. This is about the safety of everyone, including transgender students themselves. As we talked about, you know, there's boys in their teens with raging hormones, and you're going to throw a transgender male, being a former female, into a locker room situation, changing clothes and everything like that. That transgender male, in this case then, would also be in danger. Why keep on mixing these volatile chemicals together and just waiting for an explosion to happen? The excuse is always, well, if something happens, we'll take care of it then. I don't want you to take care of it then. I want you to prevent the stuff from happening to my children. That's what we put our kids into school for, is this reliance on the system to take care of them when we can't take care of them, when they're supposed to be educated, and it's everything but at this point. You send your kids to be educated, instead they're indoctrinated. You send them to be safe under someone else's care, and instead they show up to schools with gun-free zone signs, and they still get shot up anyway, which is exactly why we pulled our kids out of school and started homeschooling them, because we just couldn't deal with the crap anymore. The fact that teachers are quitting their professions all over the country and writing letters to newspapers saying, I just can't do it anymore. I used to work all day, get home, correct homework and tests and everything until 9 o'clock at night, and then go to bed. It was a long enough day as it was. At least you get the summers off, I'm just saying. But now the teachers are saying that they're up until over past midnight trying to correct things because of the Common Core curriculum, which basically has the teachers teaching to the next test or state standardized test that the kids have to learn to, and they don't get the freedom to teach anymore. By the way, if you're interested in my thoughts on public education, you can actually go to my YouTube channel and look up the breakup letter with public education that I filmed 2 years ago for a TV show pilot. That being said, okay, back to ADD moment. I'm sorry. Back to the point. Target, we no longer shop at Target. Hulu started running just really disgusting animated series and pushing agendas that we didn't agree with, and it shows up in the children's show material. And another thing with Hulu too, I can't tell you how many times we personally complained about it when children's programs have commercials that run during them for adult content. You know, scary movies coming out and everything like that. I don't need my kids under 10 years old seeing a horror movie preview when they're trying to watch My Little Pony or something like that, okay? So we got rid of Hulu. What is your YouTube channel? Go to YouTube and search for the Generation Y Conservative, the letter Y, and then filter it out by channel, and you should be able to find it in there. Sean. Okay, and share that, by the way. So we got rid of Hulu. Now we've gotten rid of Netflix. And trust me, I'm extremely upset about that because I am a huge fan of Stranger Things. I am looking forward to a lot of the things coming out on Netflix. They had the Marvel series on there, which, by the way, big mistake in Netflix getting rid of that and like caving to Disney on that. Those were the best shows on television. Daredevil and Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, which Jessica Jones' last season is actually coming out next week, I think, or something like that, on a Netflix app that I no longer have. Now, let me just say, that doesn't stop me from watching the shows. It's just that we are not going to be paying for it. So that's one thing, too. I'm trying to think if there's any other places that we stopped shopping at due to policies and stuff. But listen, I'm a conservative. I believe in the free market and everything. I believe that things should play out the way that they play out. I'm certainly not going to compare myself against, say, the situations that we always talk about with Christian bakers or Christian business people that come under fire from the LGBT community where they demand that they shut down their business and sue them for thousands of dollars. Listen, I don't need that. If I were in that situation, if I went to a wedding cake place and they refuse to serve me because I'm a white male Christian conservative, I'd be like, okay, I'll just go to your competitor down the street. It doesn't make any sense. You're going to find plenty of people that will serve you. The fact of the matter is, in all actuality and factually speaking, a lot of these cases were people driving distances of over 80 miles into other states sometimes to find Christian bakers that would deny them so they could sue them and prove a point. So anyway, in regards to boycotts and stuff like that, I am not personally a person that would actually call for a boycott of something like Netflix. I just personally, or we as a family just personally boycotted ourselves by not spending the money on it. So it falls apart. Starbucks. There's another one for you. For what reason? All reasons. Okay? For all reasons. But just, if you start looking into companies, especially if you're getting like a hint in the wind of something afoul with the companies that you're providing your hard-earned dollars to, then certainly look them up, see who they donate to and everything, and start making decisions that will affect the outcome of these types of companies. Okay, speaking of entertainment, any horror movie fans out there watching right now? I'm a big fan of Stephen King movies. One of the biggest things for me, one of the most, I guess you could say, turning points in regards to as I grew up with horror movies and everything. I actually really like horror movies. I can't stay away from them for some reason. It was, as a child, one of the most frightening things I've ever watched. And let me tell you, the new one that came out last year, phenomenal. It was so good. I gave that a high score on my movie review on the YouTube channel. Stephen King's It Chapter 2 is actually coming out in September, I believe, and that looks creepy as well. But Stephen King, obviously the creator behind that and everything. Here's another one, comicbook.com. Again, by the way, they have a very liberal agenda. I don't know why I keep on following them except to piss myself off. Stephen King says it's impossible to watch Chernobyl, the new series on HBO, without thinking of Donald Trump. His tweet says, "It's impossible to watch HBO's Chernobyl without thinking of Donald Trump. Like those in charge of the doomed Russian reactor. He's a man of mediocre intelligence in charge of great power, economic, global, that he does not understand." It's weird. Is it President Macron in France this week was saying that we need to get back on track with with their relationship with the United States after many feuds with Donald Trump. Some people are coming to light. Yes, Sean Kelsey, good point. Buffalo Wild Wings, a gun-free zone. I believe it is. That's open carry, at least. They can't get you for what they can't find. I'm just saying. But just have a carry conceal license, okay? I gotta stress that. So he's a mediocre person. He doesn't understand great power, responsibility, Chernobyl, blah, blah, blah. Listen, my brother-in-law is a nuclear engineer on a sub, and my wife's cousin, his cousin as well, is also a chemist or something like that. And we just had a family reunion the other weekend, where they were both talking about Chernobyl series and how few people died in that and 3 Mile Island here in Pennsylvania. And when you look at the incidents around the world and everything, how little has actually happened in regards to nuclear power. It's a clean energy source. It's the most abundant energy source. It's the best energy source. And we're not using it because people are scared, because there is a false notion of what could go wrong out there. So it's ridiculous. So it's impossible to watch HBO's Chernobyl without thinking of Donald Trump. Yeah, when I watch it, I think to myself, why aren't we, pursuing nuclear energy if there's such an upheaval over coal and fossil fuels and stuff like that? People always say things like, we need more windmills, we need solar panels, we need hydro electricity and everything. And they don't ever attribute the fact that what our cars run on. Now, Tesla's certainly doing an awesome job in regards to efficiency with electric cars and everything. By the way, I just posted a picture. You wouldn't be able to see it. It's not on my personal page or the political page, but they are going to announce a Tesla truck at the end of this year, and it looks amazing. It looks really cool, and it gets like 500 miles to a trip, which isn't too bad, actually. It's actually really good, and I need a truck. And it's going to be under 50,000. That's amazing to me. So I'm looking forward to more about that in the near future. But yeah, no one ever talks about cars when they're talking about efficient energy and alternate energy sources and everything. I have to say, one of the funniest things at CPAC this year, the Conservative Political Action Conference down in D.C. when I went to it, I sat in that speech by Donald Trump. I've seen him there the past 2 or 3 years now, and he was on fire. That speech was blasted as an elongated, kind of off the rails talk to people that didn't follow a script or anything. Let me tell you something. Donald Trump was in his element. The people he was with were people that loved him, loved his presidency, and were just there to interact with him. And instead of going on with a speech, he decided to basically step down and have a conversation with the crowd. And it was amazing, right? But he was talking about alternative energy. And he said, he's like, I'm looking out the window, Melania, I want to watch TV, but the windmill has stopped. We need more wind. Where's the wind? I was cracking up so hard at that. But he was on fire. He was so funny. But yeah, alternate energy. It just needs to be more efficient and everything. Okay, that was Stephen King. Do we have time for one more? No. We're going to get into global warming. How about we get into global warming next? Let's shoot for it. I effing love science. That's one of our favorite sites to make fun of all the time. It says a new report warns high likelihood of human civilization coming to an end within 30 years because of global warming. A new report has warned there's an existential risk to humanity from the climate crisis within the coming decades, and a, quote, high likelihood of human civilization coming to an end over the next 3 decades unless urgent action is taken. That urgent action would be the U.S. spending trillions of dollars while China continues to pollute the hell out of the planet and not keep them chained to any type of resolution at all. The report refuses to downplay its bleak assessment of what could happen, warning of an existential risk to civilization, posing permanent, large, negative consequences to humanity that may never be undone, either annihilating intelligent life or permanently and drastically curtailing its potential. Okay. Whew. Let me go over this real quick. I was explaining this to someone yesterday at the bar. This is ridiculous. They need to answer some quick questions for me, okay? The same scientists that are saying that climate change is real and that humans are having a drastic impact on the environment are the same people that would tell you factually that the planet has been through multiple ice ages. That's what scientists will tell you, is that we've been through multiple ice ages in the past, okay? My question to those scientists then is, how have we gone into and come out of multiple ice ages, pre-industrial revolution, which you are telling us it is our pollution that is heating up the earth? How did we heat out of multiple ice ages? Okay. Now, while you think about that, because I'll tell you the answer is that we have a cyclical nature to climate change being a natural occurrence here on Earth due to sunspots and multiple locations of planets and moons and everything else. What I want you to think about is exactly that. Minute left. Let me see if I can get through it. The Earth rotates on an axis that's wobbly. So no matter what's going on, it's always wobbling, and it's always going to have a little bit different directional take on the sun while it's rotating. While that's going on, you also have a moon going around it, okay? With different gravitational pulls depending on its location and the wobble of the Earth. From there, that Earth and moon rotate around the sun in not a perfect circle pattern. Even if it was, the sunspots in different parts of the sun would be throwing off different signatures anyway, but in an elliptical pattern, okay? So at some points it's much closer to the sun, and at some points it's much further from the sun. It's almost like that heat wave would kind of go in a cyclical nature back and forth, up and down, right? And you have multiple other factors in the universe that are playing its part into our galaxy as well. From asteroids, meteors, you have volcanoes that are exploding, putting ash into the atmosphere and cooling it naturally when things are heating up. And you have the sunspots. That's a huge thing, okay? Solar flares and everything. So it's just ridiculous to believe that humans have had such an impact. 20 seconds left. Let me go over this too. By looking into climate change, scientists have been given the opportunity to do a plus or minus scale of 0.5% on each end of the spectrum from the beginning of recorded history for temperatures and everything to current temperatures. They can go in either direction to account for a plus or minus 0.5 degrees. They are upset over a 1 degree increase in climate temperature. Well, if you go back 0.5 degrees and forward 0.5 degrees on each end of the spectrum, you get 1%. So it's all in how you're interpreting those numbers and trying to account for each end of it. Not to mention, you can also look into temperature sheds as well, and the mismanagement of those over decades and giving wrong temperatures. All right, listen, I really appreciate you sticking around. Listen, we're going to come back for the second hour of the Generation Y Conservative Show, and I'll be right back. Welcome back to the Generation Y Conservative Show. Welcome back for the last hour. Listen, this half hour is brought to you by the Rich Solution. We all have problems, we all have passions. Let's combine them into purpose. That's what the Rich Solution is all about. Thriving in health, family, community, business, and personally is the mission of the Rich Solution. That's therichsolution.com. After being misdiagnosed for 8 years by 8 different doctors, Gwen Rich was finally properly diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. Now Gwen firmly believes that her deeply researched supplement protocol has greatly increased the efficacy of her traditional medical treatments. This includes a digestive health, cognitive health, joint health, core basic health, and supplemental health. Gwen uses the Life Extension products and has negotiated special pricing on the Rich Solution website, therichsolution.com, for her followers. Life Extension has been producing quality supplementations for over 35 years. Gwen's protocol is specific to targeting inflammation in the body and boosting the immune system. You can find her profile, protocol, and read about her journey on her website, therichsolution.com. That's therichsolution.com. This half hour is also brought to you by Atrantil. It's for bloating and gut issues, okay? I think, what's interesting about gut issues is it seems like they're trying to tie a lot of big issues to gut issues now. This was developed by a board-certified gastroenterologist. Athletes need over 1,000 milligrams of polyphenols per day, and Atrantil is made from the most potent polyphenol blend. It's the only clinically proven polyphenol blend developed by a gastroenterologist, the only polyphenol blend that is NSF certified for sport, and it delivers 250 milligrams of polyphenols per capsule. Polyphenols are essential for people suffering from autoimmune diseases. The polyphenols in Atrantil are broken down by your gut to help your whole body health. It limits inflammation with daily use. Polyphenols are great for anti-aging and are powerful and modeled after the Mediterranean diet. Listen, you can find out more by going to lovemytummy.com/mojo. That's lovemytummy.com/mojo. Okay. Let's see here. We're going to get into some politics. We're going to start off. Like I said, sorry to do this. It's the third week in a row that we have to go over some abortion topics and everything, and I think everybody knows where I stand. I had a couple personal experiences over the last week specifically, sharing my story about me being the product of a rape, a third-generation product of a rape, and the fact that 28 of my family members, including myself, wouldn't be here today had my great-grandmother aborted my grandfather because he was a product of rape. I've been with strangers in tears, and them in tears, sharing my story. And there's a part of that story that I can't share. That I have never shared on air, but I can't share because I don't have the permission of someone to do that. But I plan on asking that permission. It's a tough thing to do. That being said, it's an interesting situation. I have said in the past that I don't necessarily support the overturning of Roe v. Wade because of the divisiveness that it would create in the country. That it's less about overturning Roe v. Wade than changing minds and hearts in the United States to understand that abortion is just absolutely horrible, that it shouldn't be done. I personally believe that abortion is our civil rights issue of this generation. A lot of people would probably disagree with me on the left and say it's the LGBT community, that it's their civil rights time right now and everything. But I would actually point to that and say, besides some people that, and this doesn't just apply to the right, but some people that don't want people to have just basic human rights, I don't see that too much anymore. And it's usually the outcasts and a-holes of society that are really trying to put those people down, okay? I believe in full rights. Anything that I can do, they should be able to do. But I also believe that if they want to be left alone, we should also be left alone if we want to, in regards to, again, going back to Christian businesses not wanting to participate in what they consider a sin, okay? If you expect us to leave you and your sexuality alone, leave us and our religion alone. That's all there is to it. There's other alternatives out there. That being said, this is killing babies. There's no way around it. It all comes down to the fact that the biggest disagreement in our society is based on the notion of when life begins, okay? Because if you are the type of person, we went over this last week in regards to Lila Rose with Live Action Network, you can't be a person that says, I'm pro-life, I'm personally pro-life, but I can't take away the rights of another person to abort their baby, right? Which she says is the same thing as saying, I'm personally against slavery, but I can't take away the rights of another person to own slaves. Or I'm personally against child abuse, but I can't take away the rights of a parent to be able to beat the hell out of their children. Or I'm personally against anti-Semitism, but I can't take away the rights of someone to treat a Jewish person badly, right? And these are all really great examples of this personally mentality. That, it goes into this whole other thing about, you saying, well, I'm totally against abortion after such date. Right, at the time that this baby reaches this age inside the womb. Well, what changed? What changed? If you say 6 months, what was it at 5 months? What was it at 5 months and 25 days? Okay, if you're either for abortion let me rephrase it. You either believe it's not a baby until it goes through the magic canal of the vagina and comes out as a baby. And there's some sort of magical transition as it passes through, or you believe it's a baby, okay? You can make the argument to me, listen, I personally against it because I think it's a matter of personal responsibility, that people see sex as a recreational activity more so than anything else right now, and they want to dodge the responsibility of the risks associated with that by using abortion as a means of birth control. If you want to make the argument to me that the day after you have sex you have a Plan B pill, I don't know. I'm not going to give you hell over that. You know what I mean? But once the conception starts and the baby is going through the process of forming and everything, this isn't a women's health issue. You can't, make the case on women's health. Please do. Because you're talking about a very small fraction of 1% of cases that are actually attributed to women's health. Are you talking about reproductive rights? Because at that point, you've already reproduced. So you had the right to reproduce. You did it. Now you're dealing with the consequences of it and the risks associated with it. So you're wrong on both counts in that case, right? Well, this is actually on the Live Action website. It says the Illinois Senate has passed SB 25 and Governor J.B. Pritzker, I guess is how you say it, has announced his intention to sign the bill. The bill expands abortions through 9 months and requires insurance companies to provide coverage. The bill has already passed the House, and Governor Pritzker has said he will sign it. This is we're talking about insanity at this point. What the heck is going on that you're having an abortion at 9 months in the womb? Okay, you can make the case to me. I'm going to completely disagree with you on all counts after conception begins with abortion. But within the first month and a half, maybe you don't realize that you're pregnant, like what's going on there. But at 9 months, people, for crying out loud, you know what the heck is going on. You know you got a baby inside you. And there has to be alternatives. This is the other thing that we were talking about the other week in regards to abortion, is at some point, the baby, I think it's at 20, there have been babies that have survived at less than 23 weeks outside the womb, okay, on life support. So my question to the medical field is, why aren't we setting up these types of services within hospitals for women that for some reason can't value life and go through this and want to get rid of a living being inside them, that we can put them on some sort of life support to get them into a system of a loving family eventually, you know? At 23 weeks, you can have a baby outside the womb, not surviving on its own, but certainly hooked up to devices to help with the breathing and the growth and everything. Last week we were talking about this futurist guy who was talking on the Joe Rogan podcast that said that we are entering a time by 2050, he believes, and you know, we've seen exponential growth in technology fields and medical fields and everything else, where there will come a time, he believes, that sex will be completely recreational and babies will be born in labs and genetically picked out by their parents as to what features they want in their child, and then grown that way. And he's talking about, like, very specifically, like multiple eggs and multiple semens, you know, all coming together where they can actually run different tests to genetically pick out from multiple samples, like thousands of samples, color of eyes, color of hair, athletic ability, and like all this stuff that you can do. He was talking about genetic modifications, for crying out loud. And that people who choose to have children the natural way will be shunned by society, and most likely health care companies will turn them down or require them to pay an astronomical price for having children the natural way and introducing natural diseases associated with genetic predisposition to those diseases, being born in that situation, and that you risk that, so you're going to have to pay an astronomical healthcare insurance rate. And they actually liken that to I don't know if they likened it to, or I likened it to, this anti-vaccine movement, right? You know, God forbid you question the kind of chemicals that you're pumping into your child, including, by the way, the stem cells of aborted fetuses. I don't know. I personally think God has a problem with that. That's just me, though, you know, if you're a religious person. It's a whole other topic. But anyway, yeah, it's this shunning of society. So Shauna Kelsey. Okay, wait. I have Sean and Shauna? What the heck is going on here? How is late-term abortion not considered murder? It's horrific. You're absolutely right. So Shauna, if you're not aware of this, and you may be aware, I'm not trying to put you down for not knowing this, certainly at all. Governor Northam, a couple months ago, was talking about how he understands these bills where this was right after New York passed their 9-month abortion bill, and they lit up the Empire State Building in celebration of killing babies, by the way. But Governor Northam said that he understands how we can deliver babies and keep them comfortable off to the side after a botched abortion. If the baby is born alive after an attempted abortion, that they would keep that baby comfortable, and the doctor and the mother would have a conversation, not the father, by the way, in regards to the future of this baby. And he left it hanging in the air like that. So 9-month abortion in the womb is completely different than going that extra step where the left is right now, of saying, hey, you know what? Once the baby's born, if we still don't want it, we should be able to kill it right there on the delivery table. You know what I mean? That is also, we can jump back 10 years ago. I talked about this video in Britain where a woman, some sort of feminist activist, was talking to a priest on live television, and she said, you know, if my child was suffering from some sort of disease or something, or some sort of horrific accident, I would be the first one to want to have the passionate love for that child, to want to smother it and put it out of its suffering. And they were like, what are you what did you just say? You're talking about killing like a child, a teenager, or someone that is suffering? that there's a possibility, especially when we're looking at all these genetic, advancements in technology and medical fields, that something could be something like Alzheimer's and cancer and everything. We seem to be right around the corner from just obliterating at this point. They're talking about children and smothering them and the ability of a parent to be able to do that. So we're talking way out of left field at this point, okay? We are talking about the left advocating for infanticide outside the womb, for not recognizing what a baby is inside the womb. And God forbid you have a mother who doesn't like that you're suffering, that you have a hangnail and you can't, and you have a little bit of bleeding, that they should be able to just smother you to death, okay? Let's see here. Sean says, too many people, a few I know myself, want a baby and are spending tens of thousands of dollars on medical procedures to just try with no refunds regardless of the outcome. This is because the price and procedures of adopting is even more outrageous. Why can't we save these babies and give them a loving home? Shauna is his wife. Well, way to make that relationship confusing, guys. No, it's okay. God bless you. First time she gets to hear you tonight. Okay. No, that's okay. Okay, so yes, in regards to, yes, Sean, actually, I completely agree with you. We personally have multiple friends that have a very hard time conceiving because of multiple issues. I've personally known some people who were unable to have babies because of what abortions did to their bodies. Something that's not discussed in the schooling system and education system, right? Before we get too far off track, let me address that real quick. Yes, we need to reform the adoption system along with everything else that we're trying to do with the abortion topic, because their point, and it's well taken, it's not without its merits, is that we can't be pumping out more and more babies into a system of adoption and fostering and everything in environments where it's too tough to get them, tens of thousands of dollars in some cases, to adopt. People traveling to other countries where you're only allowed to have one child and they try to put them up for adoption to get into America and everything. It's absolutely ridiculous. Okay, so let's go over here to this little girl. She's 13 years old, and she stood in front of City Council in Raleigh, North Carolina, and talked about abortion and how the crowd reacted to her. So let's take a look.
My name is Addison Woosley. I strongly believe that abortion is murder. I also believe murder is wrong, so I'm here to ask you to make abortion illegal in Raleigh. Abortion should be illegal because it's murder. The definition of murder is the killing of one human being by another without justification and often with intended malice. When mothers choose to slaughter their innocent babies, they already have fingerprints, noses, they can recognize their mom's voice, they can hiccup, and their heart is beating. There's no way around it. Abortion is murder. So why is it? If an infant is destroyed before birth, there's no problem. But if killed after birth, it's considered a brutal murder. Abortion reminds me of slavery. Owners said that their slaves were their property and they could do whatever they wanted with them. Just how moms say about their babies. My hope is that in a few years we'll look back at abortion and think, that was so cruel, I can't believe we did that. Just how we all look back at slavery. The question is, who will you be? The slave owner, the man nailing the whites only sign on the water fountain, Rosa Parks, or Abraham Lincoln? Who are you going to be? Make a choice. Are you choosing to be like the plantation worker flogging the little black child? Or are you going to protest even if it costs your life like Martin Luther King Jr.? Who are you going to be? If you think abortion should be illegal, would you please stand up? We need to change the law to change the... Order. If you think abortion should be illegal, would you please stand up? We need to change the law to change the world, so let's stand up and do it. Thank you.
Order.
Okay, so there was a lot of screaming in the background there. I could let you sit there and watch this guy in the front of the room running the meeting, talking, trying to talk over and grab order in the room and everything. But it's just a couple people, adults, freaking out and acting like lunatics over what a 13-year-old said. Now, the fact that she was 13 years old took an enormous amount of courage to be able to stand up there. I'm sorry. I just personally know what it takes to be able to stand in front of people that disagree with you and throw vehement hatred at you when you're trying to make a point. And the point here is, what we are doing is we're standing up for the lives of babies. If you ever feel terrible about yourself for being pro-life, just remind yourself of that. You are standing up for the lives of babies. That's all there is to it. Susie said on here, it's just so unbelievable that all this talk of murder is being covered with women's rights. Not at all the point. You're absolutely right, Susie. You know, if you want to make an argument based on the fraction of 1% being women's health issues as a blanket statement for 100% of what abortions are all about, including situations of rape, and making that a point of your argument, it's just asinine. The majority, about 95% of abortions, 61 million at this point because of Roe v. Wade's passage, have been out of a matter of convenience, and that's it. To that point, in regards to convenience, Allie Stuckley of the Blaze put out one of my favorite tweets in regards to abortion that I've ever seen. She said, pro-abortion men aren't brave feminists. They're selfish misogynists who depend on the availability of abortion to save them from the consequences of their irresponsibility and immaturity. And as I noted as well on that, if I am sick and tired of hearing that men who are pro-life should not have a voice in the movement, pro-life movement, because they don't have a vagina, okay? If that's the case, then you can't allow people on your side, men on your side, to also stand up and support your opinion of being pro-choice, because they shouldn't have a voice either then, right? But they're always the ones that are coddled into the movement. Oh, we love them. Thank God these men are standing up for us and everything. It's ridiculous, okay? That girl, oh, I want to get back to that point. The girl, lots of courage to stand up there and do that. She's young. She made some points. They were good points. I think they were poorly executed, and that's okay. She's growing up, and it took a lot of courage to do just what she did. Number one, I believe that abortion is very comparable to slavery, okay? And for a couple of reasons. Number one, slaves at the time and babies now in the womb were not and are not considered people. And that's how you get away with property type values or excuses on how you actually treat them. Number two, they're not given rights at all, okay? And you're allowed to do with them whatever you want because you have taken the humanity away from them. So I personally believe, as I had mentioned before, that this is the civil rights opportunity of this time, okay? This is the civil rights, biggest civil rights issue. That's what I'm trying to say, I'm sorry, of our current generation. And there will be a time when we look back on these last couple decades and think to ourselves, how did we go through with these atrocities? How did you, grandpa or grandma, get away with just supporting this type of stuff? The same way that we look at slavery now. You know, it was a matter of convenience at the time. Well, isn't that the truth? Convenience is 95% of what was going on. Well, back in the day with slaves and everything, it was always the excuse of a matter of convenience. We had to tend the fields, and we didn't have machinery back then to do it. It was a matter of convenience. We had to use those people. Jews were also not seen as people at the time of the Holocaust as well. And if we are going down the path of genetically having these babies born and raised to maturity in laboratories, then abortion's really going to be looked at as something atrocious in the past as well, even within that scenario, because they'll think, oh, why? Why did you do that, right? Well, listen, we are going to be back with the last half hour of the show in just 2 minutes. Stick around, and I will be right back. We're actually going to be talking about an Alabama law that just passed in regards to child molesters and chemical castration. And we're also going to talk about Trump on July 4th, what he's doing, and Ilhan Omar, our favorite Muslim representative out there, and what she's in trouble with. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, everyone, thank you for joining us again for the last half hour of the Generation Y Conservative Show. Listen, I only have one ad for what's going on with this half hour and who it's brought to you by. It's actually brought to you by Mojo 50, the radio station that I am on. Mojo 50 will be hitting the road this summer, and our first stop will be in July in Wake Forest, North Carolina. We'll be there to help celebrate the grand opening of the Tar River Arms new retail location. Show hosts with live remote broadcasts will be on hand with prizes and giveaways, so plan to come out and meet the faces behind the voices and shop for your next gun purchase. Now, most of us are actually in radio so that we don't have to show our faces, to be honest with you. Sorry, I'm gonna hold that there. But stay tuned for more details. I don't know if they've actually announced this yet. I know about when it's going to be, and it should be pretty interesting for their opening of their show there. If you are celebrating an event at your business and would like the Mojo 50 crew to be on hand to help, let us know by contacting info@mojo50.com. That's info@mojo50.com. And I don't think I'll be at the Wake Forest grand opening, unfortunately. I tried to plan on being there. As I had mentioned before, I have this speech I'm giving at the Second Amendment rally tomorrow, and then again, I don't know the exact date, so I don't want to commit to anything yet, but the day after or before this opening, it is actually, I'm giving a speech at a women's group at a church, and I'm trying to figure out, I think they had decided that they wanted me to speak on religion and politics and the crossover of the two and how they go together, and how people are very wrong when they say that those are two things that we shouldn't talk about, and certainly not two things that you ever want to mix together. I don't believe that's the case, and I believe that that's a social wedge that politicians use to split us into our own little voting camps and everything. So I'll be talking to them about those issues in regards to religion and politics, I believe the day before that grand opening at that Tar River Arms down in North Carolina. So that's going to be a trip that I unfortunately just can't make, but I'm hoping that businesses up in the Northeast here actually take advantage of this and have the Mojo crew come out, because I would love to actually get in touch with, see in person some of my co-hosts and everything. As I had mentioned before, if you tune in to Defenders Live at 9 p.m. on the 18th of this month, which is a Tuesday, I will actually be sitting in as a co-host with Steven on that show on the Mojo Network and hanging out with them as well. So that's really cool. Okay. Last half hour, we were talking about abortion, of course, after the last 3 weeks of doing it. Shauna here had a comment over the break here. It says, she said, fathers should have a voice over the life of their unborn child, not just beta males pandering to the feminists. But then again, a loving, caring father in the family home doesn't work for the left agenda. Sean, good job. Good marrying there, man. She's giving better comments than you. You really got to step up your your politics here. Your wife is blowing you away there. Okay. We are going to get into, one of the most out there, okay, in a good way, laws that were passed recently was the Alabama law in regards to banning abortion down there, okay? And that's what threw up this whole political upheaval and caused a big rift in social media between friends and everything. I didn't even, you know what I did? I posted on my personal page. All I said was, thank you, Alabama. That's it. I didn't put a link to an article. I didn't put anything. And all I caught was hell online and text messages and stuff, I'm not going to apologize. I'm not going to apologize for standing up for babies' lives. I just went over that the last half hour. If you feel like you're going to make me feel bad about my position on being pro-life, you have another thing coming. And you may say it's because I'm a male and I don't have to deal with the consequences and everything. But to say that my personal story of being the product of a rape is a rare occurrence when 28 people in my family are of the same origin, and that's just in my family. How many other families are out there with the same type of story? How many families are out there with stories of, getting to the abortion clinic and changing their mind, having God come into their life, speak into their ear, speak to them and say, turn around and go home. You can do this. You can do this, right? Before I get into this Alabama law and everything in regards to child molesters, the one thing I do want to say is there's a big difference out there in regards to how people approach abortion, okay? You could take a very angry approach to it and stand outside and protest out of a Planned Parenthood and hold up signs of aborted babies and their body parts in disarray and everything. Personally, I feel like fear and hatred are not the way to change people's hearts and minds, especially if there's any type of underlying trying to bring people to Christ and understand the overall love of everything, right? Personally, myself, I believe that sitting down, giving an opportunity, setting up a table, coffee stand outside of a Planned Parenthood area, not obviously on the premises or anything, and just opening up a conversation. Hey, sit down. I know why you're going in there, right? You're going in there because you're considering an abortion, or you've already made up your mind to have an abortion, but it is not too late. And I just want to tell you that there are other options that aren't being sold to you, that you are being sold on an idea by a corporation that makes money, that primarily makes their income by aborting babies. It is an abortion mill, okay? And that's the only way that they make their money. And why is it, as Trump said, that we're spending so much money and allocating money in the millions to Planned Parenthood when they turn around in every election cycle, and in the last one gave, $250 million to Democrat politicians to help them run and everything? Well, if they're spending that much money on political campaigns, but asking for it from the government to help support and subsidize abortions, why are we even giving it to them if it's going right back to the politicians? It's like this circular, sick, demonic relationship between the left party and Planned Parenthood. It's unbelievable. Excuse me. I have some crack and rum in my Coke, and that's honest. That's the honest truth. But it's just crazy that we have that, and we know why they're going in there. They're going in there to have an abortion. There are other means of adoption and raising the child, okay? But they don't sell you on those ideas, because when you go in for a consultation, their main objective, like any salesperson, is to get the sale of abortion. Okay, that being said, there's atrocities that happen out there, okay? Rape is a horrible thing. I am not going to sit here and diminish the fact that rape is a detestable, evil act perpetrated on men and women, okay? It's certainly mostly women, but it happens to men a lot in prison situations and stuff too. That being said, along the same disgusting lines, you have child molesters. Well, this is according to, Sean makes a good point. He said, if I have a gun to your head and make you stand still while an accomplice shoots you, I am an accessory to murder. Yep, I agree with you. Okay, here's the article. Alabama lawmakers pass bill that would chemically castrate child molesters before parole. Do you agree or disagree? We got a couple people still tuned in here. I know that this runs a little back on timing, so you're about 20 seconds away from me. I'm going to open that up to you. Do you believe that we should have a policy of chemical castration of child molesters before they get out on parole. And then I'll read your answers as we go through this. Alabama lawmakers have passed a bill that would require pedophiles to undergo chemical castration as a condition of their parole. If Governor Kay Ivey decides to sign the bill into law, it would apply to people over the age of 21 who have been convicted of sexually assaulting minors, according to CBS affiliate WIAT-TV reporting. Republican State Representative Steve Hurst introduced the bill, which is known as HB 379. Why do these bills always sound like Star Wars droids, by the way? Hurst said convicted pedophiles, quote, have marked this child for life and the punishment should be fit for the crime. Yes. Sorry, I don't want to sway your opinion. So he has introduced similar legislation before in hopes that it will make potential sex offenders think twice. I had people call me in the past when I introduced it and said, don't you think this is inhuman? I asked them, what's more inhuman than when you take a little infant child and you sexually molest that infant child when the child cannot defend themselves or get away, and they have to go through all the things they have to go through. If you want to talk about inhumane, that's inhumane. If we do something of this nature, it would deter something like this happening again in Alabama and maybe reduce the numbers, according to Hurst. Okay. Opening up for your opinion there. Chemical castration. I thank God when I heard about this, it was on the radio and they were describing what it is and not me looking it up. Okay. I mean, if you tell me chemical castration a couple days ago, I would have been like, I don't know what that fully entails. Apparently it's putting chemicals on the penis and it shrivels it up into non-use anymore. In that case, yes. Personally, I'm all for it. Here's the problem. There is one problem. What about wrongly convicted people? It's out there. There's a percentage of people that go to prison that are wrongfully convicted that didn't actually do the crimes and aren't the ones that are guilty. As a matter of fact, it's part of that whole Me Too movement. Now, there's certainly people that are part of that movement that have their stories that you can't diminish or take away from. But there's also stories wrapped up in there of people, guys trying to flirt and being accused of a sexual assault, okay? Just by talking to a woman and trying to hit on her and flirt with her and everything. We're getting to a point where these types of things, wrong convictions, are happening more and more often, okay? If a person is wrongly convicted of molesting a child and they serve their time, chemical castration, especially if they're innocent, obviously we're all going to say no to that, right? But how do we know? So there has to be something in place in regards to that helps identify situational awareness, right? If you are caught, so to speak, quite literally with your pants down in regards to doing this kind of thing, chemical castration, absolutely on the table. If it's hearsay, and there's a shadow of a doubt, there needs to have a discussion. The discussion needs to be had at that point. But yeah, cruel and unusual, yes, but these people had a choice, and their choice led them down this path. According to someone else that I heard talking about this, chemical castration actually changes the hormones in that person, which a lot of times the hormones actually attribute to the type of behavior that they have. So it might make them kind of more docile in regards to that evil nature that they have within them as well. No one got back to me. No one wants to step up and give me their opinion on chemical castration, huh? It's 11:30 on a Friday night. I understand. No one wants to get that heavy and deep into it. Okay, this is according to Fox News here. It says, Dems fume over Trump plans to address public from Lincoln Memorial on July 4th. Here we go. Democrats on Capitol Hill are fuming over President Trump's plan to deliver a speech at the Lincoln Memorial during the traditional July 4th celebration on the National Mall, saying that the event should appear non-political. I don't think he came out with his speech, that's for sure. And how he is the president of everybody in the country. Sean, you're too late. You're too late with your opinion. No, I'm kidding. It's slippery slope. I agree with you. I do agree with you. But at the same time, they're evil. The U.S. Park Police confirmed this week that Trump planned to attend this year's celebration, which typically brings thousands to the nation's capital. This is according to House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer, the Democrat of Maryland. President Trump's efforts to insert politics into a celebration of our nation's history is extremely alarming. Forcing taxpayers to foot the bill for what amounts to be a political rally is irresponsible and a misuse of funds. I strongly urge the president to reconsider his proposed event. As I said before, he is the president of all people, and Steny Hoyer and Nancy Pelosi can quite frankly kiss the American ass of the people because they want to make an issue out of absolutely everything. And it's getting to this sickness level, right? We have waited for 2 years on this Mueller report. The Mueller report comes out and they can't find anything. And instead of letting the issue go, the Democrats continue to shoot themselves in the foot and pursue impeachment measures based on non-material, non-information, something that isn't there, something that they're grasping at straws at. They have lost their damn mind, okay? If you talk to the average Democrat voter, I'm talking about JFK, Bill Clinton, old school, back in the 90s type Democrat voter, they are so sick of the way that the liberals and left are acting in Congress right now and pursuing this impeachment, they will tell you it's over. Get over it. Start focusing on, you want me to look up? Start focusing on the 2020 race and about what you are going to do. Isn't it about time that we start getting to politicians that tell you what they want to do, not what the other person is accusing another person on the other side of doing? It's easy to sit and judge someone else and point out all the flaws of their nature. But if you're putting nothing on the table to offer to the American people, then what are we voting for? Anti the other person? The Democrats are giving nothing, okay? They're not giving nothing. They're actually giving everything, right? Everything for free, healthcare for free, education for free, open up the borders, let everyone pour through there and give all them welfare for free on the backs of the American people. Even if we taxed the top 20% at 100% of their income level, you wouldn't be able to pay for half of the things that the Democrats are pushing for. So, of course, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is the type of person that would say, well, we just need to print more money. Why doesn't she just go into every monopoly board that she can find in a toy store and start paying for things that way too, right? She would probably, don't suggest that to her because she might actually do it, okay? Hoyer is among several House Democrats who wrote a letter to Trump on Thursday asking him to abandon his plans, saying they worry it will, quote, create the appearance of a televised partisan campaign rally on the mall at public expense. In addition to drawing the administration's attention to the cost, resource impacts, the logistical headaches this will cause, we are respectfully asking the president to make himself part of this great celebration rather than attempting to make this great celebration about him. In that respect, let's go to Ilhan Omar, one of the other Democrats. Ilhan Omar is one of the 2 Muslim representatives that are currently in Congress. The other one would be Rashida Tlaib. I don't know if it's smoky in this room right now or if it's my contacts drying up. Either way, it's concerning. Ilhan Omar violated campaign finance rules, investigation fines as more questions about tax filings arise. Representative Omar repeatedly violated state rules when she used campaign funds to pay for personal out-of-state travel, as well as help on her tax returns, and must reimburse her former campaign committee nearly $3,500. Now, listen, I'm going to make this a quick topic here. $3,500 is not that much money. The fact that she used campaign money illegally is the point. It doesn't matter if it's $10, $3,500, or $1 million. I'm about to sneeze, I'm sorry. The fact that she did this illegally shows her character. And on top of that, they're talking about going back about there was another article, I want to say 9 years of bad tax filing or something like that. She's going to have to pay fines and everything. This is just a showing of bad character. And what we're dealing with in Congress right now, it just drives me nuts. And she's also one of the representatives right now that has been back and forth on anti-Semitic behavior and responses. And every time we have people in the media point out to conservatives, well, she didn't really mean it that way, and can't you give her another chance? And she apologized. Every time she apologizes, she turns around the next week and makes another anti-Semitic remark. Like, this woman has made it a point to bash Israel as much as possible and support the, I forget the BD, the one movement, the Palestinian movement. I always forget it because it sounds like bondage, BDSM or something like that. But Rashida Tlaib is also the other one who has talked about that we're going to impeach the effer when responding to a crowd during her campaign rally and talking about President Trump. So obviously we have something going on in the Democratic Party, and I think that's something else that we can actually talk about. There is a divide in the political parties right now on the left and the right, okay? You have the establishment Republicans that don't agree with the conservatives and Trump and the Tea Party activists within the party. And there's a big divide there, and if that can't be healed, there's a chance that Trump might not win in 2020. Based on those Republicans and everything. Personally, if all goes smoothly into the 2020 election, I don't see Trump losing. I'll just be honest with you. On the left is where you're seeing the most divisiveness, though, okay? Nancy Pelosi's crew and the established Democrats or liberals in there are really on the outs with the far left in the party. That would include Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Bernie Sanders, Rashida Tlaib. There's a couple more in there too. But we're talking about avowed socialists in the party, okay, essentially. And the socialists linking arms with the Muslims and the radical Islamic agendas, and with countries that hate us, by the way, too, and trying to make friendships there. We have politicians that have been going on ambassador-type mission trips to other countries to form friendships and allyships with countries behind our government's back, especially the president's, and trying to interfere with what he has going on. John Kerry did that recently. I think he did Iran, I'm sorry, one of those countries over there, and it's like, what the heck are you? You're not even in politics anymore, John Kerry. It's ridiculous. But it's certainly an interesting situation that we're dealing with within the parties. I don't know. What do we got going on here? Slippery slope, blah, 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 look up. I don't know why she said that. He said that. I don't know why did you say look up? Okay. One more article here, because I have a little extra time. I actually saw this. By the way, before I forget, this week we celebrated, or at least recognized, D-Day 75 years ago. Man, I might take up time with this instead. You know, I lost my grandfather a couple years ago, and unfortunately, right before I got married, which is about the time I hit more maturity, I'm still not totally mature, is when I was at the point in my life where I wanted to hear his stories in the Air Force during World War II. And unfortunately, right before I was able to see that in myself, to want that, he had a very, very bad stroke and was unable to speak anymore. It wasn't until around the time of his funeral, when I wrote his eulogy, that I found out that in the Air Force as an engineer or a mechanic on the B-17 Flying Fortress in England, did he hold a record on base for fastest swap out of an engine for the plane. He was in a crash landing. He was in a crash takeoff. Just a few years before he had his stroke, we found out that he had a daughter in England. The woman he was staying with, things happened, and she had a baby. After he left, he never knew. And we found out that we had a whole other family over in England that we never knew about until that woman died, and his daughter searched through records trying to find out who her father was after finding the name Robert Ford in the attic and trying to search for him. Imagine how many of those names are out there in the United States alone. So it was very interesting. My point being this: we are running out of the great generation. And it's amazing that it was only 75 years ago that we stormed the beaches of Normandy and everything, and that we were involved in this world war. And we see this black and white footage. We watch movies like Saving Private Ryan of the storming of the beach that gives you this insane feel of what was going on in the just massacre on the beach. And what they went through in Bastogne and everything, going through the woods when you watch Band of Brothers, one of my favorite series. My point being, we're losing this generation. And if you happen to know a World War II veteran, sit down with them and get their story. If need be, if you have the opportunity, one of my goals in life at one point in time, and it still is, I honestly don't have the time for it anymore. I always wanted to sit down, run a camera, and just say, please tell me your story. What did you go through? What did you see? What do you want your family to know after you're gone? What was your experiences? What did you learn? When you came back, was it worth it? You know, do you feel like now when you look at what we're doing here, what we're doing in today's society, was it worth it what you sacrificed? Is this what you sacrificed for? Are you happy with what's going on, or are you upset with it? I want an honest answer. And because we're losing that generation so fast, there's not many World War II veterans left. On the same scale, start talking to Vietnam veterans, right? The crazy thing about that is it seems like the Vietnam vets are less likely to talk to you about their stories than the World War II vets because of what they experienced over there. And, you know, if you have the ability to get them to talk about it, it would probably be worth it. I was actually going to go over a different topic for the ending topic there, but, you know, thank you to all the veterans out there. Thank you for fighting for the freedoms that we talk about on this show every single week. The freedom of speech, right? The freedom of religion, the freedom to bear arms, and every other amendment that goes with it. You know, I actually do know them, but we're already out of time. I just thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything that you sacrificed. I thank those that have passed. I thank those that sacrificed themselves over there. And we remember you, and we'll continue to remember you. We'll continue to thank you until the arrogant generation takes over and there's just nothing left for things to be taught in school anymore. So with that, I leave you. I appreciate everyone getting involved tonight. It was a great conversation. You guys really stepped up and helped me out since I didn't have a co-host with me. We'll see you next week. I will have the speech from the Second Amendment rally to play in next week's show. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, have a great night, and God bless America.